Welcome, folks, to the Anti-Social Podcast. My name is Andy Dowling. If we haven't been introduced before, well, shit, there's a good intro for you. I also play bass in the Australian metal band Lord, so if you are into a bit of old school heavy metal, you can go to lord.net.au where you can give our tunes a crack. In addition to being a heavy metaler, I also host the Self-Starter podcast, which is all about small business, self-employment, and freelancing. You can go to selfstarter.com.au or you can search for Self-Starter in your preferred podcast player. So if you're into that kind of stuff or you're self-employed yourself, then you can go and check that all out, selfstarter.com.au. And a big thank you to everybody that's been supporting that podcast. It's still fairly new. It's been a bit of a challenge getting that up and running, but I'm really happy with what it's doing so far and really excited to see where it goes in the future. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Speaking of thank yous, if you are new to the podcast, first of all, thank you. Each and every week of the Anti-Social Podcast, I do a shout out. I do a public thank you to somebody that supports me, supports one of the podcasts, supports the band, whatever it might be. And it can be small or big. It could be buying merch, shouting me a beer via andysocial.net. It could be leaving a review on Facebook or iTunes or somewhere else on the internet. It could be something as simple as just shooting me a message or leaving an encouraging comment or doing social media good stuff like liking and retweeting and all that kind of stuff. Whatever it is, big or small, it doesn't matter. It fuels my fire, keeps me motivated, makes me happy, and gets me through some of those tougher times. Whinge. But it means a hell of a lot to me. So with that in mind, this week's shout out is for Adrian Barham. Barham sounds awfully close to Farnham. Okay, anyway, sorry, I was getting sidetracked. Adrian from Adelaide has been supporting the podcast for quite a while now and an absolute champ. He's bought merchandise from me and I always see photos popping up on Facebook where he's strutting the Anti-Social t-shirt heading out to metal gigs in Adelaide. So I really appreciate the rep and spreading the word in the Adelaide metal scene. So thank you very much, Adrian. Really appreciate it. Please send me a message on Facebook or wherever, and I will hook you up with something. I'm looking around the room. I'm sure it can find something weird and wonderful to send out in the post to you because, let's face it, we all love getting something in the mail. So if I can find something, I'll flick it out to you. So thank you so much, Adrian. Really appreciate the support. It means a hell of a lot to me. This week's guest, I'm going to cut right to the chase. It's with Paul Holmes. Paul Holmes rode his motorcycle from London to Wollongong. If you don't understand where these two places are in context to each other, there is a little bit of a distance in between. It took Paul 6.5 months and had to ride through 22 countries to get from, oh, thanks. Yep, I know, it's impressive, Larry, my cockatiel there, to ride his motorcycle from London to Wollongong. And I'm going to go through some stats in a moment, but I don't know if anyone remembers the old TV series. Well, not really. Old is not, well, it's 10 years ago, so it's probably old. But the old TV series called Long Way Round with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman, I think. And when I heard about Paul's story, I instantly thought of this TV series from years and years ago, this documentary that was put together. Yeah, I know, it's really impressive, Larry. I know, just calm down. And I instantly thought of this TV series and it made me go back and watch it again because it's one of the coolest doco/TV series I've ever seen. It's really, really inspiring. And I was just really excited when I heard what Paul had achieved in this trek. And so if anyone wants to go and check out that Long Way Around TV series, I'll put a link somewhere. I'm sure it's on like, I don't know, Netflix or Amazon Prime or one of those streaming services or something like that. It'll probably be easy to find. It's probably on DVD in an op shop somewhere. So go and find it. Anyway, back to Paul. So Paul has done this mammoth trek and he's planning to do more of them. He wants to go around the entire planet, but this first trek was just such a mammoth one for him. And he gave me a bunch of stats because I wanted to paint a bit more color and context before we dive into the story because it's just incredible. Like, I don't think I could ever do this, but he went and did this by himself and just, I don't know, I'm going to stop gushing, but so it took him 6.5 months to do it. 31,000 kilometers, 22 countries. I've got a list of countries. I'm going to go through them. So the countries, bear with me, guys. England, Isle of Man, Wales, France, Spain, Andorra, Switzerland, Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro, Albania, Greece, Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and then, of course, back home into Australia. insane. The cheapest fuel that he had on the trip was 34 cents a litre. Fuck, I wish. The hottest temperature was 43 degrees on the Nullarbor. Highest altitude was 3,900 metres. The most kilometres he rode in one day was 890 kilometres. And he gave me a list of some of his memorable moments, and I'll just touch on a few of them because he gave me quite a few, which... no surprises here, given what he's achieved. But some of them was doing the lap of the Isle of Man TT course, the motorcycle, what's it called? Tourist something? Anyway, you guys know what it means. Gallipoli Anzac Cove sunrise, Nepal Himalayas, the Nullarbor sunset. Yeah, that's right. He rode across the Nullarbor from Perth to get back home to Wollongong, as you do. Saw wild camels in the South Iranian desert. He turned 34 on a smoking volcano in Iran's, is it Mount Damavand? Slept in a prison. He also had a couple of crashes along the way, and just the most insane story, like just so cool. And I look at him and I see what he achieved, and I just think, man, I don't know if I could do that. And just for him to be able to do it on his own was just really, really cool. So enough of all that. You can follow Paul on Instagram if you search for @Scrambler, so SCRAMBLER_ADVR on Instagram, so you can go and check that out. I'll put links in the show notes over at andysocial.net, including a bunch of photos from his trip. But what a cool guy. What an amazing story. He's going to go off again next year in 2019 for his next trek, which is going to be epic, and it's just incredible. So please enjoy this episode with Paul Holmes. How you doing?
Good.
Awesome. We're hanging out at Cabbage Tree. I haven't been here for a while.
Yeah, no one really comes here, I don't think.
Well, I drove past and I thought it looks like nothing's changed, but I came in, they've actually pumped a little bit of money into it. It's a bit cleaner now.
Yeah.
I think the last time we actually played a couple of shows here. We played one in the front bar, in the carpet in the corner of the room, and then I think there's like a little function room in the back or something.
Yeah, this is the new live music venue. Eh?
Oh, so they are still putting shows on?
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh, okay. So. Well, there we go. Well, thanks for coming and having a chat.
Good, no worries.
Got a few dumb questions to ask you, so bear with me. But how long have you been back in the country?
Well, I got back just before Australia Day, so 25th, 24th, something like that.
Oh, so it's not that long ago.
Yeah. So
you're still coming back to terms with everyday life?
Still getting back in the swing of things, yeah.
So I'll give a bit of context at the beginning of this episode just to explain what you're all about, what you've been doing. But do you want to give a quick rundown of what the last... Because it was about 6 months that you were away?
Yeah, it was 6.5 months, basically, when I, just a little bit over 6.5 months. 30,000 kilometres plus. I don't really know, my bike speedo's out, so but it's definitely over 30. I rode back from London on my bike to some...
Why not?
Across the world. People don't think it can be done, but there's a lot of land in between.
Yeah. So. I mean, have you seen... I watched this, there was a documentary that came out years and years ago. It was a TV series with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Long Way Round or Long Way Down. There's two of them, I think.
Yeah, well, that was sort of a little spark for me, you know?
Yeah.
It was good. I like that.
I remember watching that about, I don't know when that came, about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I'm sitting there going, I don't know how to ride a motorbike, but I want to get one now and just do it because it seems so cool.
Yeah.
So was that something, I mean, because I think there was some other motivators there to do it, but was that one of the things that sort of sparked it?
It was one of the main things, like from years ago when I seen it. I think that was 2004 when that came out. Yeah. But I was a bit young then, and over the time, like I've always loved motorbikes and I love travelling, so I sort of put the two together. Yeah. Went and seen the world with my bike.
Pretty cool. Was there a moment, like, I mean, obviously because you've been thinking about it for a while, but was there a sort of a moment where it sort of just clicked and you went, fuck it, I just got to do it now?
Yeah, well, the whole thing with everyone's mortality, you know, like I've seen some, my dad's good friend, one of my cousins, she's only the same age as me, and it's all over for her, unfortunately, and you got to learn from these people's lessons, so I sort of dropped everything. It was like I'm not waiting.
Well, you never know what the next day's going to bring.
Yeah.
So,
I eat a bunch of McDonald's sometimes, so it's like, well, you know, I'm not the healthiest individual.
Yeah, why not? I guess when you don't know what the future's going to bring, it's sort of like, you know, before you know it, you can just miss that opportunity.
That's it, exactly right. Everyone thinks they got guaranteed 80 years, you know. Yeah. Every day.
No
you never
way.
know.
How much? I mean, from when you sort of thought, okay, I'm gonna make this happen. What was the period of time before that and the day that you actually got on that bike and started riding?
It was probably 8 months, I'd say. Just with the you got to factor in all like the different seasons, you know. So
Yep.
I couldn't go over there to Europe in the middle of winter. It wouldn't have been fun.
No.
Yeah, things like that, and finances. I had to do a lot of visa organising and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's the painful part, like organising visas for every country.
Because
Bike papers.
it was like 20 odd countries or something like that.
22 in the end, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Europe was easy. You don't need a visa for any of
Yeah.
that stuff, but you still need bike papers, because taking an Australian registered bike across the world, you rock up at borders and they just don't know what's going on. So
I would
it's a bit
assume.
confusing.
I would assume by like towards the end of the trip, your message to each of these people at the borders is pretty slick. You've got
that's
it down
right.
pat by
The
then.
first time it was a bit confusing for me too, but by the end of it, it's all good.
Did you have to? I mean, thinking about like just the different visas, especially, I'm assuming probably through the Middle East and parts of Asia as well. That probably would have been more important than, as you said, like the first sort of few countries through Europe. But I mean, what did you do from a money point of view? Did you have to? I mean, obviously you've got an account that you can, you get your safety net there. But did you have to bring some different currencies just as a bit of backup, just to keep it going?
Currency was a bit painful. Like even in Europe, like all of a sudden, I don't know much about Europe myself, but when I went through, most places took euro, and then all of a sudden you got to have the like Swiss francs or whatever they are, and then you got to go to you got to get the Croatian kuna.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm like, are these places in the EU or what?
Yeah, yeah.
So they all got their own, and it sort of throws you out a bit. And then the next second you got pockets full of money that you don't even like. It's just confusing, you know. So
Just this shrapnel.
yeah, I still have it. You get to the border and you're like, and then you can't exchange it, and it's like, oh well.
Oh yeah, that's
souvenirs.
That's it.
Yeah.
And by the end of the trip, you're probably carrying an extra like several kilos of spare change.
Well, I had a lot of coins, and I had a crash up in the Himalayas and lost all my coins up in the mountains. So I sort of that was a gift for the mountain.
Oh fuck! All right, I'll get to that in a moment. I was just thinking, like, because I mean, with me and the band and like TY being in the band back in the day in Lord, a lot of what we do is like DIY. So we spend, like, if we're going to do a tour, we've got to plan it, we've got to put everything together, we've got to logistics, we've got to work out all the little tiny things that seem to be not a big deal, but they can be a big deal. So little travel things and decisions that are made. But for a 6.5 month expedition through 22 countries, that's I mean, how much of it was pre-planned, or how much of it was sort of like, I'll just kind of not wing it, but just go with the flow a little bit?
Yeah, well, I didn't. That was one thing I didn't want to do. I didn't want to plan everything and put a time frame on everything as such. Just so Europe was open. Time frames I had to have a little bit of a time frame with my visas. Like you have an entry time, and then you can only be in there for a certain amount of time. So that sort of put me on a bit of a schedule. But yeah, I mean, the planning. It was a bit painful, really.
Yeah.
Riding the bike was the easiest part. So.
Once you're actually on your way, then that's fine.
Yeah.
It's all, everything leading up to it. Yeah. I mean, that's a painful thing. I mean, even for us, if you just go and play interstate, that's like a painful thing to go through and just organising. Especially, I mean, it's different because I guess we've got multiple people we've got to be accountable for and plan for, where it's you just did this on your own.
Yeah.
But to have multiple places where the rules change every single place you go to.
I found not being in a rush helps.
Yeah.
You get to borders. If you're in a rush, you're not getting anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
You just got to go with it.
Set the expectations low.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wow. What from a visa point of view, which country had like the weirdest or the most sort of restrictive sort of hoops that you had to jump through?
Well, I think the hardest visa to get was it would have been India, actually, because I had to drive up to Sydney to get that one.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, but with the like Pakistan, that was easy. Just to send it off, and then they sent it back to me.
Sweet.
Iran, that was easy too.
Yeah.
I thought that would be pretty difficult. Like, there's a little bit of tension between sort of the West, I guess.
Yeah.
The US still.
Yeah. Yep.
But that was great.
So it was India. Yeah. So you have to go to the consulate.
Yeah, I had to go to the consulate, pay a bunch of money. The visas cost a bunch of money. It's crazy. So.
Yeah. Wow. Because I think we've gone to the US and we've had to jump through hoops with the US. So we were talking about someone else before and the hoops that they've got to jump through. And we had performance visas, so we had to actually go up to Sydney and then do the interviews and pay all like the million different fees and ticking all these different boxes in a million different forms. And all the criteria and photographs and information and
Yeah.
proof that you're going to be there and what you're doing it
Yeah,
for.
you're not going to earn money or whatever it is. Yeah.
It's just
taking
full
jobs from Americans, blah, blah, blah.
all that sort of stuff, yeah. So just the volume of countries. And I know that the US and I think probably even Australia, if people come into Australia, it's probably pretty difficult as well. But I would have assumed, there would have been a couple of difficult ones that you would have had to, a bit of admin.
Yeah, well, I mean, going through Iran,
Yeah.
that's put me in a cacategory now for if I travel in the future.
Yeah.
If I go into the States,
Good
I
luck.
can't get an online visa anymore, apparently.
Yeah.
I've actually got to go to the consulate and explain why I was in Iran, blah, blah, blah. And it just shows that the tension's still there. So,
Well, when we did our visa interviews and we went through this, it was sort of like a kiosk thing. I don't know if it's the same with the Indian consulate.
Yeah.
And you sort of stand there in a line, you wait for your turn,
Yeah.
sort of like going to the RMS and
Yeah,
get your
yeah,
ticket or
exactly,
something
yeah.
like that. And then you go up to the counter, but there was a guy that was across from us and he looked like he was originally from the Middle East or had a Middle Eastern background, but
Yeah.
I overheard what he was saying, and the whole reason he was there is because he had travelled to Iran,
Yeah.
and that was the place. And so
Yeah.
he was getting grilled over the counter by the
Yeah.
American, just saying, "Why were you there? What were you doing there? Why would you go there?" You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's just
exactly,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, well, I had family there, so I was going to visit."
Yeah.
But who are they? You know, blah,
Yeah,
blah, like
yeah.
just totally
Drilling,
drilling
yeah.
in. And I was like, "Oh man, it's crazy." And part of it you sort of get, but then half of it is like, what's reality and what's
yeah, that's
like.
right. Like, I had no issue while I was in that country.
Yeah,
I thought they
'cause-
were friendly people, you know.
Because I saw a couple of comments where you just said like it was just like
Yeah.
this place that totally contradicts like everything
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we hear anyway.
Yeah, it was. It was completely opposite to what the media portrays it as, you know.
Yeah. Well,
It's strange.
from all those countries that you visited, was there a few like that were sort of eye openers as far as what you thought beforehand or what you'd learnt or had been told and
Yeah.
seen on TV? Once you got there, you just went, "No, this is a completely different."
Yeah. Well, I mean, Turkey, all the history with wars between Australia and Turkey and all that stuff, World War One. They got nothing but time for the Australians over there. They're really nice to Australians,
Yeah.
just because I guess from what I spoke to a few of them over there, they have respect for the Australian soldiers, the way they fought, you know.
Yeah.
So they were just really nice and
Yeah.
wanted to talk, and it was interesting that
Yeah.
Turkey was great. Iran, they were really nice. Pakistan, they were nice, but I didn't really get to mingle too much with them because I had security the whole time.
You had security while you
Yeah,
were there?
from one end of the country to the other.
Was that part of the requirement that you came into, or you
No,
made
it's
a
just
decision?
government. The government doesn't want you to get in any trouble. I guess their tourism is slowly building there, and
Yeah.
anytime a foreigner dies, I guess it's big news for any other country, you know.
So it could be seen as partly for your protection, but it's
Yeah.
probably more for them to protect
That's right.
themselves, to make sure that they've got control.
Because it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Their security. They tried, but they put me more in harm's way than anything.
Yeah, right.
It's just
What,
calamity.
just drawing attention.
Drawing attention.
Yeah.
Their cars barely ran, broke down half the time. I didn't even have a car at one point. I had to double one of the one security personnel. He was on my bike up with one seat.
Oh, man.
He had his gun in my back.
Oh, oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I had
Wow.
an AK-47 in my back for about 20 k's.
Oh, well, that's character building. Far
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a bit of life experience.
Oh,
for you.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's a part of the adventure, right?
But I mean, I guess is it one of those things where, I mean, as intimidating and as heightened and as full as it can get, you can sort of tell that people are they're so stuck in what they are told to do. Like, those guys are doing their job.
Yeah.
And so they've been employed to do that.
Yeah.
And so they're just following whatever they've been told.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, they're following what they what their orders were. But at the end of the day, it sort of wrecked Pakistan for me in the sense that I didn't get to see the country whatsoever. I was when I entered in Taftan on the Iranian border, I had security there. I slept in an immigration prison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and in the office, in the chief's office on the concrete floor.
Oh.
That was it. That was the only accommodation option.
Wow.
And from then on, it was like military. They have all kinds of different military. Have their levies, police, then you got army, and it just kept happening all the way across until I got to Lahore on the Indian border, and I'd ride with them, and then they'd take me to the hotel, and they'd basically lock me in the hotel, like the compound. I couldn't leave the compound, like the hotel grounds. And it got really frustrating, I knew the risks when I was getting the visa, simple as that. I did the research of where I was going. I knew what could potentially happen. And I was quite happy to do that.
So when you applied for that particular visa, you already knew that was what you would be walking into. That was a requirement of you being a foreigner in that.
Yeah. I mean, the Balochistan province, I believe it is in Pakistan. That's not really a safe place for Westerners whatsoever.
No.
It's it's tribal. Like and you're on the border of Afghanistan. They're fighting over these lands still, you know.
Yeah.
So
stuck in centuries of dispute and conflict and everything.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it was sort of they're so poor there, and they could use their resources for better things, but here they are shuffling a Westerner across the country, you know, where they could be using that to protect their own people.
Oh, absolutely. So how long in that period of time? I mean, they're obviously trying to get you through there pretty quickly. But what was the period of time you were in Pakistan for?
I wanted to be in and out in a few days, 5 days. I think it was about 2,000 kilometres or something across.
Okay,
something like that. Yeah. But I ended up having to stay longer because there was a bunch of religious festivals on, and they were really worried. I think it's called Muharram, where they whip themselves on their back.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's pretty full on, and they didn't want any Westerners to be out in the streets because they get into apparently they were saying that they get into such a frenzy when they're doing it.
Okay.
Well, I would love to have been out there just go, you know, that would have been great.
It's one of those things where, I mean, there's a guy I know that went to a guy called Lachlan who is on Triple J, does the racket.
Yeah.
And he plays in a bunch of bands as well, but I was chatting to him a while back, and we were in Indonesia last year for a metal festival that we played, and he went over there a few days beforehand, and he went to this I'm going to butcher this and completely get it wrong, but some sort of religious festival. It was also a protest.
Yep.
And he was told by everyone, stay the hell away.
Yep.
And he's going, oh fuck it, YOLO, we'll just go in there. Yep. And he was the only Caucasian person there.
Yep.
And he said there were people there that were just staring at him going, who the
fuck
is this?
Are you?
Yeah,
why is he here? Yeah.
But other people were walking around handing out water and food, and they were giving it to him as well. And he said it was weird because I was on edge because there was a level of sort of heightened sort of state or whatever, but at the same time there was enough people there that sort of you still felt relatively safe. I mean, you know, you don't. I mean, how much do you want to roll the dice? And you know,
Indonesia was it's so close to home. I've never been to Indonesia, and for me it was so close to home, but it was so different. Like it was one of the most different countries I went to on my entire trip. Like we're in northern Sumatra, it was. I mean, there were people walking around without shoes. You know, the poverty was ridiculous up there.
Yep.
And the roads are madness.
Yeah.
Every day was.
It's only a short flight from Perth. Like it's
well, that's it.
It's just there, you know. And it's such a. I mean, I've only been to Jakarta.
Yeah.
And everyone tells me there's nicer places in Indonesia, and I believe them.
Yeah, because Jakarta's a mess.
Jakarta's crazy.
Yeah.
And just like this hub of shit, you know. And and despite all the chaos and everything, there are some of the nicest people I've met that live there.
Yeah.
But such a messy and dirty city,
filthy,
and it's chaotic, and you just look at it and go, wow, like the next nearest, I mean, actually it's probably not the next nearest major city, but the next nearest major Australian city would be probably Darwin or Perth or something like that. It's not that
far away, and it's a completely different world.
Polar opposites.
Yeah.
Polar opposites, quality of living, everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I rode through some really nice areas of Indonesia, and that was the last place I got to where you flew straight in, I believe. Did you? Yeah. So that would have been a bit of a shock. There are nice places in Indonesia, definitely. Yeah. But Jakarta's not one of them. No. It's just a big stinky city. And
we were literally there, I think, overnight, or more or less. No, 2 nights. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it was literally just a fly in, fly out. That was it. And I thought, I'll go back to Indonesia one day, but probably not Jakarta.
Don't go to Bali either.
No. Well. I
couldn't wait to get out.
I see it's like the Bogan's paradise, and I don't want to. And I don't know if you're the same, but if I want to travel somewhere, I don't want to be somewhere where all the other Aussies are.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if I want to do that, I'll just hang out.
I couldn't wait to get out of there. To tell you the truth, I can see how nice it was. Yeah. But it's not the paradise it was.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I was in Jakarta, I remember I was in this 23rd floor of a hotel room, and I got woken up because my bed was shaking, and it turns out I woke up and then I rang the receptionist. I'm like, what's going on? What? And she's like, they're like, oh, it's all good. No, you're fine. Turns out it was a 7.8 it might have been more. It was like 7 point something
earthquake.
And the whole building, because I remember getting up and I felt drunk, but I hadn't been drinking. The building was shaking that much. And apparently, like, everyone was on the streets. Everyone left the buildings and went down the streets. I just slept through it.
You were out to it.
Slept through it. It's all good. 23 floors. I'm not walking down the stairs.
Oh. Man, I mean, I would assume that, I guess, the higher up, the probably more, I don't know, the more you probably feel it because there's less foundation.
Right. Bit more sway up there.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's hair-raising.
I ride it out, yeah.
Oh, man, that's insane. So, I mean, going back to Pakistan and being there, so you had to stay there a bit longer because they had some religious festivals on, so there was a bit of a risk around that. But did you feel that, I mean, obviously you had some expectations going into it, but did you feel like you were ever in real danger, or was it just more of just this level of tension through the whole thing? Was like, I just got to get through it?
Yeah, not really. I mean, there was one point on the trip, it was a heavy time for me. I was a bit emotional about it at the time. I just thought it was over. Yeah. So I was riding along. I had my escort was in front, leading the way, and I could see these two utes coming out of the desert, like towards the road, and they looked like they were in a rush to get somewhere. And in the back of the tray was about 5 guys, and the dual cab ute was full. So in each ute, right? Yeah. And
something out of the movie.
This is what the movies teach us, or as they were probably just going to work, but for me it looked like something was going to kick off.
Yeah, warning signs.
And my security, it made it worse because my security guy, he just stopped in his car. That area, because I'd just taken off from Tafttown, that area is really bad for drug trafficking, people trafficking, all this sort of stuff. And the back ute, he stopped, and I'm sure they handed something over. There was something sketchy went on there, and then next second I'm in between this front car and the back car, and there's everyone in the back of the ute just looking at me, staring at me, and they look like proper Afghanis, like, because it's right on the border. There's no actual border, it's sort of just like they can. And it was just a real heavy thing for me. I thought it was over, and I feel sorry. I feel like a bit of a jerk for it because they're probably just going to work, But it's just what we're led to believe, all the media and all the crap.
It's this association that we build over time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but then I ride up the road, and there's like, you keep going a couple of hours, and then there's everyone playing. There's just in the dirt. There's nothing but dirt really in the desert in the Balochistan area, and there's a bunch of people playing cricket. Like, like the town's just finished work or whatever, and they come play cricket.
Just play cricket.
Yeah. It's madness. It's a different world.
No doubt you probably already had this in the back of your head anyway, but it would have validated it over that whole trip of all those countries that, despite all like the cultural differences and the way people look and the way that they live, everyone is pretty much the same as far as they all need the same basic things to survive and live, and everyone feeds off the same sort of motivators, but then there's all these differences in culture which lead to conflict and whatever. But we're all humans.
When I was in Quetta, that's right on the border of Afghanistan. That's a real heavy place. There was a big explosion there. Like, from what I heard, it was the Sunnis and Shiites. They just hate each other. Yeah. And they're constantly tit for tat. There was a massive explosion the morning I arrived. Yeah. I arrived at night. That morning there was a massive explosion. I think it was 30 people killed. Oh. So when I came into town that night, it was like really heightened security, and it was just chaos in that city. Absolute chaos.
So a place like that, or any of these other places, especially through probably more so the Middle East than anywhere else, I mean, you kind of spoke about it before about explaining what you're doing, but I mean, how many people did you have to sort of try to explain where you're from and what you're doing, and for them to try and comprehend what you like? Because no doubt, how many Westerners are sort of traveling through these areas at a time? Well, it would have been suspicious for a lot of these guys, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, Iran was kind of like that. It was when I felt like I was being watched a little bit when I was going, and that's fair enough. Like there with the, I suppose, like I said, there's a bit of ongoing conflict, there's tension. They want to know who's doing what in their country. All the foreigners come in. So because I got an Iranian SIM card, and I felt like, which is, it's probably 100% true. Like, and I don't, doesn't worry me one bit. I'm not doing anything crazy, and I wasn't hiding anything, but I could. My phone was doing different things. And I mean, like you said though, if I had the chance to explain, I could tell them exactly what the story is. You know?
Yeah. I guess that gave you a bit of peace of mind that you had nothing to hide. There was nothing suspicious. But
well, I had my drone with me. That was a concern. Like,
I saw some photos. Yeah,
my drone that I was taking footage with and whatnot, and I just didn't want to be put into that spy category.
Yeah.
Why do you have this thing? Blah blah blah.
Did you have any moments where people, like, you had to sort of really take the extra time to really try and explain yourself to people, or were most people kind of okay?
I mean, I spoke to a few young, like younger people in Iran.
Yeah.
They were like, "What are you doing here?" They couldn't understand why I would, and I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I doing here?"
Why the hell
like,
are you coming here?
Why are you coming to this shithole? I'm like, "What?" They're like, he openly like, this place sucks. I'm like, all right. But the younger people were sort of revolting against the way things are. Like, when I left, there was some sort of riot or something kicking off over there.
So did you see, like, with a lot of these places, especially in the Middle East, I mean, whether it's stereotypically or whether there's truth to it, but I mean, there's so much history there, centuries of culture, but also conflict as well.
Yeah.
Did you see, like, even what you just said with some young people in Iran, that there's that conflict internally where people are trying to change, and there's still that old school traditional element there?
I spoke to, like I said, they were so friendly there, and like, I spoke to a lot of the younger people there, and they can't travel unless they've done a bunch of years military service. So if they haven't done their service, they're stuck. They can't leave the country. And some of them, the guys I spoke to, or because you don't speak to any of the women there because it's very strict, sort of thing like that. But they didn't look like they'd survive the military service. You know what I mean? They were a bit, but they still wanted to travel, and sort of like that's really harsh. You know, can't see the world until you've served your country, sort of thing.
And especially where, I mean, this is from a Westerner point of view, but you know, if they're revolting, like, you know, coming into conflict internally with with old cultures and traditions or whatever, their military probably is very sort of embedded in those older traditions as well. So by doing the service and doing the time, you're probably doing something that's against what you believe in as well. So it'd be really hard for you, I suppose.
Another thing, like when I was in, I think, what was it called? I think it was Van in East Turkey. Yeah. It's Van or Bam, one of the two. Yeah. But I was there for a night, and when I got there, all the hotels were booked out. I had to stay. I had to stay in a hotel in like a dorm with about 10 other people while I was off it. But I was asking people, like, what's going on here? Why is everything booked out? And they said, there's like it's an Iranian holiday, so they all come across the border into Turkey. And apparently, when they do, they come across the border and they're like, they go to bars and, you know, they're having a good time, and the girls are like, take their burqas off and whatnot, because when you're in Iran, like, it's, I didn't see any colours apart from black, you know, wearing all the women wearing black burqas. I think there was some religious significant, like, there's a holiday or something going on where they had to wear that colour, but it was just from what I heard, when they got across it into Turkey, it was like, that's it.
Leave it all the border, more or less.
Exactly,
Wow.
And it's party time. So that's what I'm sort of, that's the thing I gathered from the younger generation there. They want a bit more, you know, relaxed sort of.
And probably with a lot of those guys, you know, with the internet and things like that, they're getting a bit more of an eye opener to see how the rest of the world's running and functioning, and so they see the opportunity. Like,
even when I got an Iranian SIM, my phone's, a lot of things on my phone weren't accessible.
So a lot of stuff's blocked.
A lot of stuff's blocked. They all just use VPNs over there, so they can access it all, but they've done this really half-assed attempt to block everyone from.
Just hope all the lazy Iranians never mind. Yeah, the ones that don't know about VPNs, right? So, so you can't use Facebook. Anything that I guess is US, you know. So Apple iPhones don't really work very well over there at all. Yeah, wow. Yeah, so I mean, despite all that, and I mean, you know, a country which has got so much sort of really strict tradition and culture, and that could be seen as a little bit suppressive compared to the West anyway. I mean, from what you said, like, the people there were just amazing, and a place compared to maybe Pakistan, which was very much eyes on you. It was probably a little bit different in Iran.
Yeah, I mean, I had a great time in Iran. The place is pretty magic. Like, you go through so many different places. Like, I went to Tabriz, and I was in the oldest bazaar. It's like a marketplace, and I believe it's the oldest bazaar in the world.
Wow. Okay.
And you can see just brickwork. It's just amazing place. You know, the culture's incredible. And then you go further down to Yazd, and that's just the places. There's nothing around apart from dirt. So they just built everything out of the clay and dirt, like the houses.
It's an oasis.
Yeah, it's really strange. One of the hottest places on earth, I believe, from what I've been told. Crazy hot, but yeah, it was a special thing for me because like 5 times a day you hear the call to prayer, and they blare it through all the mosques, and it's this sort of haunting tune that you know, and I loved it.
Everything just stops.
Yeah, everything stops, and everyone does their prayers, and
because they and my ignorance is so massive, but like they would shut up shops in the afternoon for a period of time as well for prayer and things like that as well. Because I've noticed that in a few countries I've been to through Southeast Asia, where there's a lot of sort of big Muslim populations, and so you'd be walking around in the afternoon going, man, I can't buy anything, can't do anything.
Closed. That's right. Yeah, so they have their little the prayer times, I guess. You know.
Yeah, and even the festival we did in Jakarta. It was like at, I don't know, 5 or 6 p.m. or whatever it was, and the festival just stopped.
Yeah.
That's it. No bands. Yeah. Sorry, that's it. Yeah. Everything just gets shut off, and then they had the prayers go, and it was just insane. And you got these kids there that are wearing like Cannibal Corpse t-shirts and these death metal, black metal t-shirts,
and conflicting.
Oh yeah, and then they are praying, and it's just like it was such this contradiction and this mixture of worlds together, and it's just like so bizarre, so weird. But as you said, like there's this real sense of when I first experienced it, was uneasy because I'm not used to it. Yeah. But there's an element of calm to it where everything's just under control, and everything's just like
quiet. Yeah, that's all you can hear. Yeah. You know, across, like they got their mosques everywhere, and then they got they're really old mosques in some of the areas. They're like, but then they got like modern technology megaphones hanging off the top of them. You know, so it's that I thought that was funny, but
yeah, that's right. The clash of the worlds.
Yeah.
They've got to, eventually you can't avoid it. And the technology's going to come in and.
No, I liked it. I got a bit more of an understanding of all that sort of the religious side of things, and it was good for me, you know, to get out and see the world, and that's what I wanted. Yeah. So
have you got a bit more, I guess, a bit more compassion or understanding for people now after that? I mean, you might have already had that anyway, but did you sort of have a bit more of that after?
No, it's been great to sort of open your eyes. People should get out there and travel, have a less closed-minded view of everything, you know.
Man, like I mean, I've done a bit of travelling through the band, and even like since I've been young, and I've relocated a fair bit as a kid and you know, in early 20s and whatever, but I'm always surprised that, like, you know, we're here in the Gong, and I know a bunch of people in the Gong, and they've never left the Gong. And I lived up in South Sydney in the Shire, and the Shire's got such a reputation as you never leave.
Yeah, that's right.
And even down the South Coast, same sort of thing. You talk to people, and they're like, "Oh my God, like, you know, you go to Sydney?" It's like, when was the last time you went to Sydney? About 15 years ago. And it's like, oh man, I go there like almost every day. And it's just. But then usually that sort of links into a lot of people's warped views on the world as well.
Yeah, they don't experience other cultures, or they don't understand it, so they don't accept it, or I don't know what but that's my take on it. Yeah, go and see the world and see. Our way is not the only way.
Yeah. But even what you said before about the scenario with the young guys in Iran and like not being able to travel until they've done service. Yeah. I love the concept of service, but not necessarily in a military way. But I think, you know, young people in Australia, even like, you know, before they wrap up high school, actually probably once they've wrapped up high school because they're an adult. But there should be something in place where they do 2 years of travel service, where they go overseas and do something that's like a volunteer sort of thing or whatever, and help other people or something, just to experience the world. Yeah. Just, I think the level of maturity that can
it's definitely
can get really
I'm seeing
quickly.
That for sure.
Yeah.
Now I'm old.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, involuntary sort of service. Yeah. That's a bit heavy, but I mean, like you said, they've got to do something. Yeah. It's a good way to grow up. Yeah. Either travel or go in the military or whatever.
Yeah. Just something. Yeah. Something that's puts you outside your comfort zone.
Exactly, yeah.
Makes you think, and
Yeah.
it's a bit of problem solving.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have had many a times when you stood there and just went, "I've got no idea what to do," and you force yourself to have to think, be creative, and try and work your way out of it.
You have to be an adult.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You're not the only one in the world. You're not self-centered view.
Oh man, and that's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah,
It's hard for me on a day-to-day basis in general, but it's a really difficult thing, and we always laugh. The Americans are always an easy target because there's a stereotype with, you know, a lot of Americans never leaving in the United States, but it's still pretty prevalent here in Australia, and there's a lot of Aussies that love the country, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they have got no urge to leave it.
There's a big world out there.
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned, I think it might have been online, I read that there's a photo of you in Iran, I think with a whole bunch of locals.
Yeah.
And I think your bike had broken down?
It wasn't my bike. It was a fella I was riding with. I just met up with a guy, Abby, from India.
Yeah.
And he was riding a Himalayan Royal Enfield. And his bike broke down on him. And everyone just came out of the woodwork to help. You know, it was just a crazy thing. And we sort of just got in the country, and that was our first experience of everyone being really nice and helpful and just going out of their way. Like, the guy was a teacher that helped us, and he was on his way to class, like to teach kids, and all of a sudden he's helping us. Loading bikes in the back of the car, organising people in Tabriz, which was like 90 k's away, making phone calls, can you fix this, and organising everything for us. And next second it's like middle of the day, and we're like, what, aren't you supposed to be at school? He's like, it's all good.
Yeah, stuff the kids.
That's
cool.
Yeah, so
I mean, it must be like they must get it. They must understand that, you know, they probably, a lot of their culture and their background's about, you know, doing something for their neighbour and helping each other out, and it's very sort of close knit. But they probably get it as well, that there's probably something that they need to really make an extra effort for foreigners as well, because of the perception issues that they've had as well.
And I think that, like you said, I think they understand that, and they were trying to be like come and talk to you, sort of, and help out as much as possible whenever you needed it. Like I had a guy we were in Tabriz, and a guy came up, and he's just speaking, because they like to speak English. It's sort of like if they're learning English, they like to come and it's sort of like helps them. Yeah. And he came up to us, and he's like, because we needed SIM cards. He's like, I know a shop up the road. Come, I'll take you up there. Took us up on the way to get SIM cards. We're going to this other store. I'm like, this is not a SIM card store. And he's like, buys us 2 ice creams. Here you go. And he didn't even buy himself one. He's just like, here's 2 ice creams. I'm like, that's a nice thing to do.
Yeah. Totally unexpected. Like, where else is that going to happen?
And it's hot as anything there, so I think it's melting all over my hand in like 2 seconds. But
I really need that SIM card, mate. But I'll enjoy the ice cream all the same.
They were so friendly, and I think they, like you said, they really they're actually trying to get the message that they're not all savages, and they're not terrorists whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I sent a bunch of I did an article in the Mercury or whatever it was. And that picture got printed in the Mercury, and I sent that article over to that guy. I had him on as a friend on Instagram. I sent it over to him and said, thanks, I'm passing the message of how nice you were and how much you helped out and whatnot. And he was stoked. He was so pumped on it. So that's just let you know that we're trying to
giving
trying
back
to
a
spread
little
the
bit.
message, spread the message. So.
Oh, that's cool. How much of motorbike mechanics did you know before you went on this trip? Like
enough.
Enough. You had a basic understanding. So if you're in the shit, you could get yourself out of it.
I was in Pakistan. Bike stopped. Yeah. And that's not. I was in an area where you shouldn't stop. But at those times, you become a pretty good mechanic. Yeah. So, or better mechanic than I am.
This connects to here.
I just cutting wires. People look at me. I was chopping my bike up. So I'm like, what are you doing? Worked. But I've ridden bikes for a long time. Yep. When I was a kid, riding dirt bikes and whatnot, and you pick things up. I'm a plumber, so I'm pretty handy. They call us jack of all trades, so we figure things out. But it doesn't mean anything really. Like I met people on the road that just got a bike for the trip, never ridden before, just got their license, and they're getting around the world just as easy as I am. Like I said, if you break down, people will help you. Like people aren't like monsters. You know, there are nice people in the world.
Yeah.
So,
but it would have been. I mean, as that scenario in Pakistan where like you've broken down, I assume that there's just nothing around. Like, you've got to attend to it. You've got to try and find a solution to get you to wherever you need to go. Yeah,
and the mechanics there, our bikes that we ride are so foreign to them because they don't like Iran. Turkey could have big capacity bikes, but Iran was 250cc maximum, so they couldn't have a bike.
So it's illegal to have something.
Yeah, I met a mechanic over there. He was helping us, another guy that was helping us, and he was showing me photos of his like 1300 bike. I'm like, where do you have this? He's like, it's in Turkey. He goes to Turkey to ride it. So because you can't ride it in Iran.
Wow.
So yeah, and then same with Pakistan. They got 250s and these little bikes, but they do everything on them. Like,
so did you have any issues getting your bike through these areas?
No, well, it's just special circumstances, you know.
Yeah.
These little bikes, they don't go fast, so they can't go on the freeways. So we're on the freeways with our bikes, and it must be so foreign to the locals because every car that passed had their cameras out and taking photos of us, and it was like, and then they'd sit beside you taking photos and videos, and you're like, all right. Keep driving.
You're on a million like Iranian sort of Instagram pages,
exactly,
your bike somewhere.
Yeah, like, look at these guys on the freeway. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Because I'm just going back to that Ewan McGregor thing, that long way around and long way down thing. You know, and I mean, those guys had a bit of money. They had a little HQ headquarters set up in London or wherever it was before they set off.
And all that.
They had everything set up, but you know, I just watched the amount of times that their bikes just shat themselves, and they had to. They were trying to get the locals to help them out, and then they were trying to attend to things. And so when I was looking at what you'd done, I thought, I'm just trying to imagine, like, because you wouldn't have had that budget, you wouldn't have had all that support there. So there would have been. And you mentioned that did you break down in the Himalayas? Or
I didn't break
problem?
down there. I just crashed. Crashed a pretty good one.
How did that happen?
I was up on this dirt road, and I could hardly call it a road.
Yeah.
So I was heading up into like the Mustang area, they call it, up around the Annapurna range.
Okay.
And it was, the road was intense. It was, to me, it was really rough, and like most riders will say that's one of the hardest roads they've ridden a motorcycle on.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay.
But then the most soul-crushing thing is you'd be on the side of the road having a breather, and a bus will come up the same road with loaded with people on the roof. They just get things done there.
It's like, whatever.
They'll get.
It is what it is.
They get it done. It's madness. Like these buses, like on 3 wheels, just getting like the wheels are popping off the ground. It looks like it's going to roll. You'd be sick instantly being inside it. I don't know how they're inside it. I get car sick.
That's scary, man.
It was rough, and I crashed. I dropped my bike at one point. So steep.
Was it just like you just hit something in the road and it just sent you flying?
Rocky, and just it wasn't manicured whatsoever. Like it was just rough.
Yeah.
And I got stuck behind another car, and sort of just took a poor line and started rolling back, and the bike slid down the hill. It was pretty heavy.
Oh, really? So yeah.
And that was when I lost all my coins, and they all went in the mud. And I was like, you know what? That's
donated.
That's for the gods.
That's for the gods. That's right. The Himalayan gods.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously you're okay because you're here. But did you come off with a few cuts and bruises and?
No, I sort of just stepped off the bike and then just let the bike slide down the hill inside, you know. But and I was just watching it, going, "Oh, this is not good." But
time slows down.
It was fine, you know. My panniers took all the damage.
Yeah.
So I was scratched up, but the bike itself was fine. Picked it up. My tank bag had a massive burnt hole in it from the exhaust, and I threw that away.
Yeah, wow.
Figured it out. But I crashed another time in Croatia.
Yeah.
That was a wild one. That was on the road actually, so it was a bit more intense.
And was that with another car, or was
it was just me being an idiot. I just put a new tyre and new rear tyre on my bike, and like I said, I've ridden bikes longest time. I know you got to give the new tyres have a wax coating, so they're slippery. Okay. You got to give them a couple hundred k's before you start. Turning the throttle a bit, and I thought I'd give it enough time. It was like 100, 200 k's, but there's a bit of wax left on the edges. And next second I'm doing 360s down the middle of the road. It was heavy. I was in bed embarrassed too, because there was another biker there, like who was parked at this cafe. I just asked him for directions, and when I took off, I just spun down the road in front of him, and I was just like, So I got up, my pride was a bit damaged more than anything, and I just got back on and just took off. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Oh man. Oh, I mean, look, considering the amount of kilometres and all the different conditions and circumstances, I mean, to have only two
that was
things,
it.
and you know, as no doubt hair-raising as they would have been, for you to walk away from both of them then that's it's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Pretty good odds.
Yeah,
far out. Yeah.
But I mean, every day riding through Asia, there was near-death experiences. There's serious lack of road rules there.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that in Jakarta, and I've seen it in Kuala Lumpur as well, and Bangkok, where it's just chaos on the roads, like multiple lanes, and there's that whole thing about you don't wait for the lights to cross the traffic. You just walk, and they work around you, which is so like
you have a lot of trust.
Insane. So you would have had you said a lot of close calls in Asia.
Yeah, there were a couple of countries in general, like India is just madness. Yeah, utter madness on the roads. Like I didn't enjoy riding my motorcycle there because you're in your lane. Next second, a truck decides I'm going to overtake this other truck, and a flash of the lights means you get out of the way. Yeah, but you're in your lane. I couldn't figure it out, you know, and they just don't like using brakes around corners, and it was chaos. I was really concerned every day I got on my bike. I was
going to survive.
Yeah, and then Indonesia was the other. It was India and Indonesia. They were the two craziest countries I've ridden a motorcycle in. Nepal was pretty bad just because it's mountains.
Yeah, mountains,
corners and sort of dangerous roads like that. You know, they're all passes everywhere.
It definitely make you a more, like, you know, when you... I don't know if it was like this when you're in school, but when you get to do like driving lessons and they teach you those defensive driving courses, like your defensive driving or riding skills would have been so much better after going through those experiences, because you'd be so heightened to everything going on around you.
Well, that was the thing. Like when I was riding through Europe, I'd be like physically tired at the end of the day of riding, just riding all day. It was relaxed, but in Asia it was more mentally tired. Because I'm constantly looking, constantly on edge, and it was good. It was such a good thing to get back to Perth, and when I got back on my bike, I just immediately loved riding my bike again. You know? Just because there was rules and people aren't just pulling out on you. And
that's it. There's not a million people around as well.
It was great to get back to Perth.
I saw also that because not only did you go all through these countries, but you went to Perth and then did the Nullarbor across to get back home. Nullarbor is one of those places where I think that's one of those things I've just got to do. And I've got mates that live in Perth, and they said, we've done it. Like, we've done it once. Once is enough, but you got to do it. And it just seems like such a... I think there's no doubt parts of that stretch which are just like mind-numbing. But there seems to be like these amazing spots along the way, which just seems to be this picturesque, incredible...
I didn't have any... For me, it wasn't boring at all. It was such an interesting place of Australia. Like, it's the most dramatic end to any country I've ever seen. It just is a sheer cliff that just drops into like rough ocean. And it's amazing out there because they just can't do anything with the land because there's no water.
There's nothing. That's it.
It was a really interesting part of my trip. I loved the Nullarbor.
Was that? I mean, given all the chaos through like Asia, and then being what I would assume probably being a little bit outside your comfort zone through like the Middle East and even parts of Europe where there's cultural differences, to do that last stretch, which is like still from like Perth to Sydney is what, 4,500 kilometres?
4,500, and that's as the crow flies sort of thing. So
so I mean, that would have been, I guess, I'm assuming that like this relative peace, because like everything's calming down.
It was like hardly any people on the roads. You ride for hours without seeing a car at times, you know.
How many days did you do that one?
It was a little over 2 weeks to get from Perth to Wollongong.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I was running out of money at that point, so I didn't really have a say in the matter.
Had to speed it up a
little
bit.
I would have loved to slow it down a bit, but it was stinking hot too. It was middle of summer. At one point, I had to pull over and just stop because it was so hot. It was just on our side of the Nullarbor.
Okay.
It was that hot. I was worried my bike's going to overheat. My bike's air cooled.
Right. Wow.
And I was overheating.
Yeah.
So, like, heat stroke's a big issue out there.
I was going to say the last thing you want is to pass out while you're on the bike.
I was speaking to a fella at a service station. He said there was a dirt biker riding out there that same day I was there, and he's like, "Oh, make sure you drink lots of water. There's a guy who just lost his kidneys due to heat stroke."
Oh.
Yeah. That's airlift him out, and
wow.
yeah, so it's pretty serious out there.
I mean, they always talk about that stretch in other parts of Australia where if you're going to go for a drive, because there's such great distances between those pit stops, those servos and everything, that you've got to make sure you've got reserves. You've got to make sure you've got stuff on you to keep you prepared.
I mean, nowadays it's easier. I mean, my dad did it in the 70s. I think it was still dirt back then. Oh. But it's a bit easier now. I think the longest stretch was 250.
Okay. Oh, that's not bad.
Something like that, or 190 or something like that. But between petrol stations.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad. But I camped in the middle of an Nullarbor on the edge of Australia. Basically, it was magic.
I think I saw a photo of that.
Yeah, no one around.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's insane.
I got the craziest light show from at night.
Well, that's it. You got no light pollution or anything.
That's right. Yeah, it was.
That's something that's foreign here. Like I've never seen the sky.
Yeah. It was pretty special.
And the Nullarbor, you would have seen like a heap of like road trains as well.
Yeah.
Did you have close calls with those guys?
Oh, they were all right.
Okay?
Yeah, they were all good.
Yeah.
I mean, they just do their thing. They're good drivers, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they're not to worry about them guys.
Yeah, I did a drive from Perth to Kalgoorlie and back. We played a show out there a few years ago, and I was driving like a 12-seater, and it's another world because a lot of these are like, it's not always double carriage each way. It's single.
Yeah.
And then when you got a road train coming down, and especially out there, it's the mining world.
Yeah.
So you got these giant, oversized trucks with this mining equipment on there. You literally just have to pull the whole thing over and wait for these things to go past.
Yeah, the wind off them just about drags you in.
It's incredible. Yeah. And and then people overtaking each other as well. So it's a different type of etiquette out there in those roads.
Yeah.
It's just you really got to
you try and overtake a 3-carriage road train.
Oh, no way.
You need the room.
And that's it. And those guys aren't slow. It's not like going up Mount Ousley here where they just crawl. They're flying.
Yeah, so. they get moving.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Did you feel that, like, I mean, obviously as you said, you're running low on dollars at the end of the trip, but did you feel like as you're getting closer and closer that the time sort of dragged out a little bit as well because you're getting so close to home that it's sort of close yet so far?
Yeah, I mean, people did say to me, like, you should ride the opposite direction, ride away from your house. Otherwise, when you get close to where you live, you'll sort of
you struggle a little bit, or
start rushing the rest of the end of your trip.
Yeah,
I didn't really feel that way. Like, I wanted to get home and see my dog. I missed my dog for 6.5 months with that.
Yeah,
you know. And family, you know, same thing. But another point that I want to just pack up, and get home that quick.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. I mean, it just I don't know. I just think about every time I got stuck in the back seat of a car as a kid, and you'd be like, "How are we there yet? Are we there yet?"
Yeah.
But I guess it's different when you're in control and you're dictating the days, and you know, it's a lot easier to sort of be engaged and still enjoy the trip and not sort of start stressing about trying to get home or anything like that.
Yeah, well, like I said, 4 months in Asia, it was just good to get back to Australia. Yeah, just a bit more rules. I could enjoy riding again. Yeah, familiar foods.
Yeah, that's right. No wild cards.
Nasi goreng constantly just kills you.
I bet your bowels copped a fair bit.
Well, funny thing, I didn't get sick on the entire trip from food.
Wow.
Except for when I got back to Perth.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Your body adjusting back, maybe.
The shock of food, you know.
Yeah.
I guess.
So you had no emergency breaks along the way where you just like you got a bit messy?
Yeah, there was two times. Once in France and in Indonesia.
Oh, right.
Oh no, it was India.
India?
Yeah. Got emergency pit stop.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, run into the bush.
Get creative.
I thought it would happen a lot more. I had stocks of Imodium and all kinds of antibiotics. Like I got antibiotics and stuff. Just general.
Be prepared.
Yeah, for any sort of thing like that. But it was pretty good. I got lucky.
It's really good.
Yeah,
really good. Especially some of those other countries where the food's foreign, so your body's just not used to it.
Yeah, I mean the food's fine, but it's just not what we're used to.
Yeah.
And I figured this time I gradually eased my way into their food, getting from like Eastern Europe, and then going to Turkey, and then Iran, and then Pakistan. So I slowly worked into their food rather than last time I flew. I went on a holiday to Thailand, and from Australian food immediately thrown into Thai food. Yeah. It was Yeah,
you were
I
out
was
of
pretty
action
sick,
for a little bit.
Yeah. So,
Had you done a lot of travelling before? I mean, you mentioned just Thailand, but had you done a lot of travelling before this trip?
Yeah, well, I've travelled through Europe as just like a tourist, and then I lived in Canada for 5 years.
Yeah, right. Well,
yeah.
As a bit of a sort of a
working holiday.
Working holiday. Yeah,
I was just plumbing over there. It was pretty fun.
Yeah,
it was when I was young.
Yeah. So you're used to being out of the comforts of the local area and all that. So it wasn't such a big culture shock in that sense. Yeah, that's cool. So you mentioned the other day that your next endeavour is going to be Alaska.
Yeah, well, I've got to finish this around the world.
Yep.
On a motorcycle thing, right? Cool. So it'll be Alaska, Anchorage, across down into Canada, and then across Canada.
Yep.
Probably finish up in New York or something. I'll eventually do South America, but I've already been through Central.
Okay.
So I don't need to do that one.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So this will be
too hot for me.
This will be the next stage, and then another stage later on down the track.
Yeah. So I'll ride across to New York and then ride back to LA.
Yeah.
Like through all like the south, you know.
Yeah. I
think it's an interesting sort of area.
Yeah.
So do that and then ship out of LA.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool. I mean, this is a lot of money. It costs a lot to do. I mean,
the preparations are expensive. Riding the bike it's just you can sort of do it cheap if you want, but at the end of the day, riding, I like that. I'll camp, I'll do all that stuff, but sometimes you just need a comfy bed.
Yeah, that's right.
So
as long as you got a bit of a safety net there, that when it mentally gets a bit tough, you can go, nah.
Yeah, well, that's it.
This will be one of my days at all.
Yeah, I met a lot of people on the road that would stay in hostel after hostel, camp hostel, and they were spending like $4 a night in a hostel. And you don't get much for $4.
No, not at all.
So and that to me, that's not. I don't want to do that. When I travel, I save enough money, so I don't want to.
And it also sort of, I mean, I don't know. It depends on the person, but I mean, I'm sure that you don't want to get to a point where most of your day is a distraction, where you're worrying more about what's going to happen that night and where you're going to be and whether the conditions are going to be safe and you got somewhere to lock up your stuff and you're secure.
Yeah.
You kind of want to just get rid of that variable.
Exactly, yeah. See, a lot of times I'd line up accommodation that had secure parking for most. Like that was everything. Yeah. That was my life, right?
Yeah.
My motorcycle was everything I had.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I lost that, would have been a lot of dramas. Like if I lost my what was on my bike. Passport, the carnet for my motorcycle, blah blah blah. If I lost that stuff, it'd be a real pain.
Yeah.
So I'd always look to keep my motorcycle safe, stuff like that, and myself safe.
Yeah, of course. But that's secondary.
That's secondary. So.
Are you gonna like? I mean, obviously you got to get all the funds together and plan and get all that together. But are you gonna do something a bit more with, as far as documenting it and seeing, like, getting other people to see what you're doing? Because I know obviously I looked at your Instagram, you got like heaps of awesome photos, but I don't know, like, have you got thoughts of what you want to do this time?
Well, I mean, the last trip I just the one I just did, I was going to do like a charity thing, but I was a bit worried. I didn't want to put the pressure on myself because I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it, you know? So I didn't really go ahead with it, but the next time I'll probably end up doing some sort of charity for, I don't know what it will be for, probably the reason why I went in why I rushed it in the first place, but something like that, and I might try and get a bit more like interest in the trip sort of thing, now that I've proven that I can actually get across the world, halfway at least. You
know what you're in for to a degree.
Yeah. And like you said, I'll document a bit more. I was a bit slack this time. I did have a bit of a journal where I wrote things down, but it's just like basic point form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least you've done that, because you can always fill in the gaps later on. It's just something to trigger yourself and go, that's right, I remember the rest of it, and I can fill it in.
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, I think especially for a lot of people that are too scared to go and take the plunge and do something that's nowhere near as extreme as that, but just to get out of their comfort zone a little bit, to see other people doing something like that, it's a bit of a motivator. It's a bit of inspiration for other people to go, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna
well, one of my friends that I work with, he actually messaged me and sort of said, he was like, oh, you know, I'm so stoked about this, all the photos and this trip. He said it's opened my eyes, and he actually made some changes to his life, I guess I helped him along the way with it.
Yep.
You know, and it sort of made me feel pretty good. You know, he's basically sold his house, and he's bought somewhere a lot cheaper down the coast.
Yep.
So he's mortgage free now, and with the money he made off his house up here, he's bought a camper van. He's taken his kids around Australia.
Wow.
So he sort of realised, yeah, he's right. You know.
Nice.
We should be doing it now.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow might not be here.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's a reality that everyone's got to face. But it's also, even if tomorrow does come, there's so many other circumstances that pop up that the
next day, next second you're 80.
And you fall into the trap of everyday life, and responsibilities and things that make you feel like you're tied to it, but you're actually not. Yeah. And it just gets harder and harder to break out of those habits. So I mean, while it's in your head, try and act on it as best as you can.
That's it, exactly.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think maybe before you go, I reckon we should do another catch up.
For sure,
and get a bit of an insight of what you're about to embark on. Yeah. And then I'll try and get people to follow what you're doing. And
cool.
Yeah, because I think it's awesome. And there was one thing, and I had a bit of a downer moment because I looked at I was looking you up and looking up at the early things. I thought, oh man, like for a guy that's gone through like some of what would be seen as some of the sketchiest countries out there. And then there's just nothing out there, like there's nothing documented or anything like that. Yeah. And I get why, but I just thought, oh man, there's so many opportunities there, because so many people will identify with that and go, I want to do something like that, or I want to get that thing done that I've always been pushing back on. Yeah. So it's cool. It's exciting that you still got some stages to do yet.
Yeah. I'm not finished yet. So
it's good, man.
I've got a lot more world out there.
Sounds good. All right, we'll go and grab another beer.
Too easy.
All right. Thanks, man. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, champions. If you want to reach out to Paul, you can find him on Instagram by searching at SCRAMBLER_ADVR. I'll also have that link and everything else we spoke about in the show notes over at andysocial.net, including some really cool photos from Paul's trip. Some really, really cool stuff, but what a cool story. As mentioned at the beginning of the episode, if you haven't seen it, please go and check out that Long Way Round TV series. It is so freaking cool. Really, really cool. I'm not much of like a movie buff or anything like that, but obviously Ewan McGregor's a massive actor, really, really famous. So even if you're a Ewan McGregor fan, maybe go and check it out as well. It's really, really cool. And it almost made me want to get a motorcycle and ride around the planet. But I wouldn't even know how to ride a motorcycle anyway. So anyway, that's for another day. But everything's over at andysocial.net, so you can go and check all that stuff out. Before I wrap it up, as always, big thank you to everyone that supports the podcast and leaves reviews on Facebook, iTunes, anywhere else on the internet. If you want me to see a review that you leave, because sometimes I don't see them, please shoot me a screenshot of what you've left me somewhere in the interwebs. I'll appreciate it, and I'd love to be able to say thank you to you as well. That's about it, guys. Until next week, I've got more guests coming, lots of weird and wonderful people from all walks of life, as always. So thank you so much for the support. Really appreciate it. And until next week, ta-ta.